Let's do it. Let's rank the division as it stands right now. But I think, at least for me, if you're ranking the division based on just the roster on paper and then what I expect to happen in the season, I would personally have two different rankings.
Oh, okay. And I can only imagine why. So who's your one?
My one, regardless, is the Denver Broncos.
Roster.
Regardless.
Roster and standings.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant your one was different.
See, I thought you would say your one for roster would be the Chargers.
That's what I thought.
But your one in the standings would be the Broncos because you figure that they would Charger it up.
I probably should. I probably should say that because if I try to take away everything I know about the Chargers in my 30 years on this earth, then yes. They have the best roster. I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just wipe that away for a second. Give me the Men in Black brain eraser. Then show me the rosters.
The neuralizer?
Yes, the neuralizer. Then just put the rosters right in front of me and say which ones are better. And then I'd probably be like, what are you talking about? But the roster, straight roster, I'll give it to the Chargers.
Yeah, and then that's what I thought you were going to say, but then you're going to bring the Charger fact into it.
And I will, but I'll just go through my rankings of the rosters, top to bottom right now. Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs.
So does this mean that, and mine's the exact same, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs, does this mean that we're not taking into position importance in this?
Kinda.
Okay, then if it's only kinda, then absolutely. Yeah, that's it. The Chiefs, like we said, have the worst roster outside of, the most important position in sports.
And they don't have the leg up at the quarterback position that they used to, over any given team.
Right.
Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is arguably the number one quarterback in the NFL, if not the number one quarterback in the NFL. So they're going to have an edge, but the edge there has been really cut down by every team in the division this year. I guess Herbert, you just expect him to make a jump to get a little bit better. Obviously, the Broncos go from Teddy Bridgewater to Russell Wilson. It's a massive jump. And then Derek Carr, I think, goes from Derek Carr, which was fine, to Derek Carr with Devontae Adams, which has to allow him, we expect, to make a little jump as well. So even that gap has been closed by every team.
The AFC West, by the season's end, is going to have 4 of the top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. Derek Carr, we talked about him coming into this year before the Devontae Adams trade as being a top 12 quarterback, and we meant that as a compliment to him. With Devontae Adams, with Josh McDaniels calling the plays, he's going to be a top 8 quarterback. Russell Wilson's going to be a top 8 quarterback. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is going to be there, and Justin Herbert, in my mind, is already there, and I do think he's going to take another step up. So all of those guys are going to be in the top 8. The AFC West is going to have half of the best quarterbacks among 32 teams.
Yeah, I mean, last year you had the NFC West with Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, and what team am I blanking on?
Jimmy G.
And Jimmy G. Yeah. So even that was a really strong quarterback division. And the AFC West is a whole level above that.
Because there's no Jimmy G, where you're like, wow, that kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Even though Jimmy G's good.
There was no Patrick Mahomes in the NFC West.
Right. There was no GOAT in the NFL there. And so absolutely, this division is stacked at quarterback. And it is a good point how Patrick Mahomes still may be the best, but the other guys aren't far behind. And then you look at the Raiders, and they've had a great offseason, unfortunately. And if you think that
Except for their head coach.
I was going to say, if you think Josh McDaniels isn't going to blow things up from a non-football side, then you probably respect that hire. If you think he's going to blow things up like he did, well then, yeah, that's a bad hire.
That's the wild card, I think, in the entire division is Josh McDaniels.
So we haven't talked a lot about the Sua Craven's comments from about Vic Fangio. I don't think that Josh McDaniels is going to pull what he did in Denver, running the franchise quarterback out of town like an idiot. But I think that he very much lacks those people skills and the personability that really connects with this era of players. And I think that's gonna wear on them over time. Whether he's learned or not, he's not a guy that people get along with. He's not a cool dude. He's not a likable person. So to me, over time, that's going to wear them thin. I think that's my biggest problem with the hire. It's not, he came in, he was given way too much power when he was hired at way too young of an age, and he screwed it up royally in Denver. I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, they've already made some great roster moves since he's been there. I think what's going to happen is he's just an asshole, and people aren't going to like him over time.
Well, and we'll see if he can change that about himself, and he may not be able to. But if he is, it's scary because I mean, Mace, you were in the building when he was there, right?
No, I mean I covered the team. No one in the building. I mean, look.
Really quick. What from people that were in the building, and obviously people that covered him as well. They said he's the smartest football mind. Numerous people said he's the smartest football mind they've ever been around. That's why I'm saying if he can take that outside of football stuff away, it's a good hire.
He's an absolutely brilliant tactician. And I mean, the fact that you look at the fact that Kyle Orton was actually putting up really good numbers while he was here with McDaniels. I mean, they couldn't stop anybody on the defensive side, especially in the 2010 season. But
imagine what Jay Cutler could have done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, what did he learn? And the old cliche, can a tiger change its stripes?
They can't.
The thing is, like, he came into Denver and he tried to be Bill Belichick, and you can't be Bill unless the results are there over the long term. If you're getting the results, guys will put up with a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Right. But he has to realize
look at what Urban Meyer got away with as a winning college football coach. We didn't even know how terrible of a dude he was. We knew he kind of sucked. But all the stuff that's come out from the NFL, because they sucked, and people weren't willing to deal with his BS. Like,
did you see the latest thing about him? What came out over the weekend? That he didn't know who Aaron Donald was when watching film.
Jeez. Anyways, go ahead, Mace.
So
incredible.
Yeah, it's Urban Meyer. I mean, it's just worst NFL head coach ever. So one thing that a lot of people do say that he was humbled by Denver, and then even he had a year before he went back to New England where he was with the St. Louis Rams, and the Rams were terrible that year, and the entire staff got fired. I think they were like 2-14, and you wonder, and he was the offensive coordinator. You wonder, I mean, if those experiences really did kind of bring a little bit of humility to him, and he applies that to what he is as a coach, then he should do fine. It's not a question of whether he's smart enough. It's not a question of what kind of game plans he's going to put together. It's all about people management there.
Yep.
And that's why, like I said, they're the biggest wild card in the division, because if McDaniels has figured that out, they could win it.
Yeah.
And they could win it by a couple of games if he can marry the people skills with the football mind that he has.
I believe in an old saying: if someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right.
And the thing about the Raiders, though, outside of McDaniels, is they've upgraded a lot with their edge rusher. Of course, getting Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, I think is going to take a step up, but their offensive line still has question marks. Their defensive line, or I should say, their defense as a whole still has a lot of question marks. So that's where I'm not in love with the Raiders' entire roster. I love some of the pieces they have. The Broncos, I really like what the Broncos have. Obviously, they still have a massive hole at right tackle. We haven't talked about him yet because this news of Tyreek came out, but the Broncos got a slot corner yesterday in Kwan Williams, who is a really solid slot player. In fact, really good slot player. So that's a good move there. Still some holes there. And you also have to take in the fact this is Russ's first year with the team now. We've seen what quarterbacks can do in their first year. Back-to-back years, a quarterback with his first team has won the Super Bowl. And then the Chargers, they had a good roster coming into this offseason, and they added some really good pieces as well.
All right. So, Mace, do you agree, or do you have a rankings
for roster?
Yeah, just because I still don't know enough to trust McDaniels just yet. But or doing coaches with the roster, just roster.
Just roster.
Just roster. Okay. Chargers 1, Broncos 2, Raiders 3, Chiefs 4.
Okay, yeah, we all have the same.
All the same.
But I think the Broncos and Raiders are really close.